In this video, I'm going to show you how to take these single lines and make them into like a 2D object path that you can extrude later on. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is notice that these are all like separate shapes and lines. So we're going to use what's called the offset tool. It is up here. It looks kind of like a mitten, or I think it does. If you use the letter O, it should turn it on. Now this tool defaults to normally 0.125 for the default. Right now it's defaulting to 0.25, which is what we want in the long run. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go with it and see what happens. So I am going to click on the outside here. I'm going to click on all these lines, and now it's adding an offset. I'm not going to do anything out of the ordinary. I'm just going to click. They want me to click on every single one of these lines, so just be careful that you don't click on something you don't want to click on, because then it'll tell you that it's not a complete shape, and you'll have to either stop it wherever it's at or start over. Alright. I'm trying to think if this is going to be problematic at all. We'll find out. Alright. So normally what I would have done was set this to 0.25 or 0.125, and that's what I might just do anyways. But if yours defaults to 0.25 and you want to try and do it with just 0.25, go for it. I'm not going to say it's wrong either way. We'll just see where your diagonals line up. That would be the one thing that I would be concerned about, is if your diagonal continues straight out past and doesn't hit in the right spot anymore. That might be problematic. But then again, it might be just fine. You're free to experiment. But if I go down to 0.125, that's just going to give me a little offset there, which is half of what I want. So I'm going to hit the checkbox on my mouse to complete that. I'm going to do another offset. This time I'm going to click on that very same line, but instead of having it go to the outside of the line, I'm going to click on that arrow to flip it to the inside. And now I'm going to keep going all the way around, just like I did last time. And hopefully this will give me a nice offset on the inside, another 1/8 of an inch. Oh, see, I goofed up. There we go. So just keep going around, the same thing we did before, but now we're on the inside of this line. So it's going to offset this line to the inside. And once we get all the way around, it gives us that nice border on the inside. I'm going to go ahead and click on that left mouse button to finish it. And now I got to break out my trim tool. That's the scissors. It is right next to the offset. So in here, now I've got to start trimming out some of this extra stuff. So if I just click on it, it'll trim it out and make this much nicer and neater, and make it into at least what looks to be a nice, even side. So you do end up with some extra points here. So that's why if you want to try and just do a 0.25 extrude or offset to the outside, I would not be opposed to you trying it. So if you're just watching this video and you haven't actually started this yet, maybe see what happens if you just do the 0.25 offset to the outside, and maybe it will make this inside area a little cleaner, but I think we'll be fine either way. We'll get this to work out just fine. Alright, so once I get all of this stuff cleaned out, I just have my outside. All I'm doing is with the trim tool is just clicking on, mousing over the line that I want to trim out, and it shows me the little section that's going to get cut away, and I click on it and it cuts that section out. Now if I went up here and trimmed this, that's not what we want to do, but it would trim it out. Would make it, you'd have to redraw that line if you did that. Now this one has this dashed line here. Remember that dashed lines are invisible. They put that in when I did my pattern, or my linear pattern, and that was just to say how far this point was from this point. So I would just leave that there. Don't try and cut that out. As long as it's dashed, it's not going to do anything when it comes time to draw your, to extrude your bridge side. All right. So I got those all taken care of, and now I've got to do the verticals and the horizontals and actually offset those as well. So these will most likely need to be done the 0.25 on each side like I did, or 0.125, sorry. The 0.125 on each side like I did my outside, regardless of if you did a 0.25 to the outside right away or if you're doing it to each side. So I don't know why all of a sudden mine is doing 0.25 here, but I'm going to set it back to 0.125. And if it'll let me, which it won't, see, it's telling me it can only do a single chain, so we're going to deselect that one. All right, so I'm going to have to do each one of these one at a time. So I'm clicking on it and then setting the side. So let's go back over there. For some reason, it wants to keep going to 0.25, which is not what I want. And then this one, check. Let's go to the other side with this one and check. And you're going to soon find out that we're going to have a lot of lines to trim out, right? Because here we go, 0.125. So you can go ahead and keep offsetting as much. You can do all your offsets at one time if you really wanted to. There's no issues with that. I'm just going to do one more here. Then I'm going to just trim out this side because you guys can, you're smart kids, you can all figure out that what I did here will be the same all the way across. So I am going to I'm going to zoom in here now, and now this is where you'll go all the way across, and there's going to be lots of trimming to do here. We're going to trim out all of these lines here until we end up with a 0.25 inch wide vertical here. Here's our horizontal coming down, and the more we trim out here, the better it looks. And some of this is going to be, you might need to zoom in to get all of this stuff. All right, so there you go. So as we trim this all away, you're starting to see that we do indeed have what's becoming verticals and diagonals, and they're both 0.25. So it's going to make our bridge a lot, well, in the long run it'll make it a lot more sturdy because everything is going to be symmetrical, but it's also going to make it easier when we're doing the bridge deck. And I'll have a video for that here coming up in a bit. So there'll be a video for that as well. So I'm just going to keep trimming all of these parts out. I did something wrong there, so I'm going to back up. I selected the wrong one. And better go back to here. All right. So I have trimmed out for the pieces I've done right now. I'm going to pause the video here and come back once I have the rest of these all trimmed out to show you what the next step is. So I've got all of my lines offset and I've got all the extra stuff trimmed out. So now this should be one complete object. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, or this sketch, I'm going to hit the green checkbox to finish my sketch. And now, rather than trying to extrude this right now, I'm going to actually spin it a little bit so I can see what's happening. I could actually go into this position here. So this is where it started in the front. If I click up here on the corner, it'll spin it just like that. And now when I go to extrude this, I'll be able to see the actual extrusion. So this is extrude button up here. It's up here by where the sketch button is if you're going to do another 2D sketch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mouse over this, and I'm just going to click on here, and I got lucky that it all is one piece. And so now you can see that it has extruded out this way. 1 inch is way too much. We're going to actually make this 0.125 0.125 because that's the actual thickness of our material that we're going to be using, even though we're just using this to eventually get just a path for a laser to cut. So now once you've made it 0.125 for the depth, go ahead and hit the check box, and now you should have a nice symmetrical, neat side ready to go for the next step.